why most men are only confident when things are going well. If there is one thing that separates men who are genuinely self-possessed from men who only appear to be, it is what happens to them when the ground shifts, when the plan falls apart, when the relationship ends badly, when the job disappears or the investment fails or the thing they were counting on stops being something they can count on. In those moments, the performance of confidence dissolves almost instantly, because performance has no roots. It has no structure beneath it capable of holding weight when the weight becomes real, and what you are left with in the aftermath of something that genuinely costs you is the version of yourself that was always there beneath the performance, the version that either has something solid to stand on or does not. Most men, when they are honest enough to look, discover that what they had was not confidence at all. It was favorable conditions. It was a life arranged carefully, enough that the thing holding them up never got tested. You know this feeling, even if you have never put it in these words. You know what it is like to be on a run, when everything is working, when you are sharp and the world is cooperating and the people around you are responding the way you want them to. In those periods, you feel something that resembles confidence so closely that you cannot tell the difference from the inside. You move well, you speak well, you hold eye contact and make decisions and carry yourself with the easy authority of a man who knows what he is doing. And you are not faking it. The feeling is real. But what you do not know, what you cannot know until something takes it away, is whether what you are feeling is a property of you or a property of the circumstances, whether you are confident or whether you are simply winning. Because winning feels like confidence. It produces all the same internal states, but it is not the same thing. And the gap between them only becomes visible when the winning stops. The hard truth about conditional confidence, the kind that rises when things are going well and disappears when they are not, is that most men never diagnose it correctly. When they feel good about themselves, they attribute it to who they are. When they feel bad about themselves, they attribute it to what happened. This framing protects the ego in the short term and destroys the man in the long term, because it means he never builds anything real. He just surfs the conditions. When the conditions are good, he is up. When the conditions turn, he goes looking for new favorable conditions rather than building the internal structure that would make conditions less decisive. He spends his life chasing the high of things going well and calling that confidence, never stopping long enough to ask why it always leaves when he needs it most. This chapter is about what is actually happening beneath the surface when a man's confidence proves to be conditional. What the difference looks like in practice between a man whose self-possession is structural and a man whose self-possession is circumstantial, and what it takes to build the kind of inner stability that does not renegotiate its terms when life stops cooperating. You will not find easy answers here. What you will find is an honest account of why most men never develop this, what it actually costs them across the full length of a life, and what has to shift at the root level before the confidence you carry becomes something you own rather than something you borrow from better days. Conditional confidence is confidence that has secretly outsourced its source. It feels internal. It presents as internal, but trace it back far enough and you find that it is actually being generated by something outside the man, by results, by responses, by the current state of the scoreboard. The man feels confident because his business is growing, because the woman he is seeing is attentive, because his body looks the way he wants it to, or his bank account is where he wants it to be, or the people in his social circle are treating him with the kind of respect that tells him he has earned his place. These are not trivial things. They matter, but when they are the source of a man's confidence rather than the reflection of it, he has built his interior life on a foundation he does not control, and sooner or later, something he does not control will shift. Think about a man named Nathan. By every external measure, Nathan is doing well. He is 34, runs a small company that has been growing steadily, is in a relationship with a woman he loves, trains regularly, and carries himself with the kind of ease that comes from a life that has been mostly going according to plan. Nathan is not arrogant. He does not swagger. He simply moves through the world as though he belongs in it, and people respond to him accordingly. He has never had reason to question whether what he has is confidence or whether it is the favorable conditions that he has, through intelligence and effort and some luck, managed to arrange around himself. Then one year, 3 things happen in close succession. The business hits a wall that effort alone cannot fix. The relationship ends, not badly, but definitively, in a way that leaves him alone for the first time in years. And a health issue, minor but persistent, removes the gym routine that has been quietly organizing his mornings and his sense of himself for longer than he realized. Nathan does not fall apart. He is too capable for that, too self-aware, too committed to his own image of himself as a man who handles things, but something changes that he cannot quite locate or name. He feels, for the first time in a long time, genuinely unsteady, not panicked, not desperate, just unsteady in the specific way of a man who has removed a few load, bearing walls and is only now discovering which ones they were. His decisions become slower. His social ease, which he always assumed was a feature of his personality, becomes something he has to work for in rooms where it used to come naturally. He lies awake doing the kind of mental accounting that used to be unnecessary, running through what he still has, what he can still rely on, what still confirms the story he has been telling about who he is, and the exercise is exhausting because there is no external scoreboard to check anymore. The scoreboard is blank, and he has never learned to feel okay about a blank scoreboard. The misconception most men carry when they find themselves in Nathan's position is that the solution is to get the circumstances back, rebuild the business, find a new relationship, get back in the gym, restore the conditions that were producing the confidence, and the confidence will return. And some version of that is not wrong. Action matters. Rebuilding matters. You do not develop genuine resilience by sitting in the rubble and meditating on it. But the men who simply restore the conditions without examining what the collapse revealed never fix the underlying problem. They just return to the same fragile arrangement, one that will prove itself fragile again the next time something shifts, which it will, because life is not a controlled environment. The conditions will always, eventually, shift. The reframe that actually changes something is learning to distinguish between confidence as a state and confidence as a structure. A state is what you feel. A structure is what holds you up when the feeling leaves. Most men have cultivated the state and neglected the structure entirely. They know how to feel confident when things are aligned. They have never built the interior architecture that keeps them upright when the alignment breaks down, and that architecture cannot be built retrospectively in the middle of a crisis when the pressure is already on. It has to be built in advance through the deliberate practice of holding yourself to a standard of integrity and self-respect that does not fluctuate with your results, through the practice of keeping promises to yourself even when no one is watching and nothing external is rewarding you for it, through the practice of meeting difficulty without immediately looking for the exit and discovering in that meeting that you are capable of more than the favorable version of your life required you to be. Picture Nathan again, 6 months into the difficulty, not because circumstances have improved. They have not improved much, but because something has shifted inside him that the circumstances did not produce and cannot take back. He has been doing something he never had a reason to do before. He has been showing up for himself in the absence of results, keeping the morning routine not because it is producing visible outcomes, but because the keeping of it, the act of honoring the commitment regardless of the payoff, is slowly building something that his previous life was too comfortable to require him to build. He is learning in real time what he is actually made of, not what he is made of when things go well, what he is made of when they do not. And that knowledge, that specific and irreplaceable kind of self-knowledge, is beginning to produce something in him that his previous confidence never quite had, a quality of settledness that does not depend on the scoreboard, a capacity to occupy his own life without needing it to be going well in order to feel entitled to take up space in it. The reflection that matters here is one most men resist because it requires a kind of honesty that the good periods do not demand. Think about your own confidence, the version you carry on your best days, and ask yourself honestly what it is actually attached to. What would have to change in your external life for it to significantly diminish? If the answer involves specific results, specific relationships, specific circumstances, You have identified the structure of your dependency. You have located the conditions your confidence is renting from. And the question that follows is not how to protect those conditions, though doing the work to build a good life is always worthwhile. The question is what you need to build inside yourself so that when those conditions change, as they will, you do not change with them in the ways that matter most. You need to start building what might be called an unconditional floor, a baseline sense of your own worth and capability that is not calculated from current results but from something more durable, from your values and whether you are living by them, from the commitments you make to yourself in private and whether you keep them, from the standard you hold yourself to not when everything's working but when nothing is, not when people are watching but when no one is, not when the outcome is guaranteed but when it is genuinely uncertain. That floor is what structural confidence actually rests on. And unlike the confidence that rises and falls with your circumstances, once you build it, it does not leave when the good period ends. It stays, it holds. It becomes the thing that keeps you upright in the rooms where everything else has stopped cooperating, which is the only room where the question of who you actually are ever gets answered. The men who remain steady when things go wrong are not men who have been spared the difficulty. They are men who stopped, depending on the absence of difficulty to feel okay about themselves. That shift does not happen through insight alone. It happens through the accumulated experience of meeting hard things without collapsing, of keeping your own standards when there is no reward for keeping them, of showing up as the man you intend to be even in the stretches of life where intention feels like the only thing you have left to offer. Across enough of those stretches, something changes in the foundation, not the feeling of confidence that will still come and go, it always will, but the structure beneath the feeling, the part that holds when the feeling disappears. Most men spend their lives building the best possible conditions and calling that confidence, and when the conditions change, they are surprised to discover that what they built was not a self, it was a setting. The man who builds a self, who does the slow, unglamorous work of developing a relationship with his own integrity that does not depend on external validation or favorable outcomes, that man does not become invulnerable. He becomes something more useful than invulnerable. He becomes consistent. He becomes the same man in the hard room that he is in the easy one, and that consistency, that bedrock sameness of character across contexts, is what the people around him eventually learn to call trust. Real confidence is not what rises when things go well. It is what remains when they do not, and what quietly, without announcement, begins to rebuild.